To say I wasn't looking forward to making this video is, well, an understatement and a half. Nanami is by no means my favorite character in the show, but of all the deaths we get throughout the anime, his will always hit the hardest. Let's talk about it. We find ourselves following Yuji, as various words from different people in his life rush through his mind. Assurance, fear, doubt, all these different emotions well up inside Yuji as he makes his way towards the station. This sequence is very quiet, with only the overbearing hum of electricity and Yuji's labored breaths. Something they probably should have done last week instead of playing specials, but I digress. In concept and execution, this scene is fine and good, but part of me wonders if it's only as empty and quiet as it is because of the scheduling issues. I mean, Yuji isn't even on screen for most of it. Regardless, we jump ahead of Yuji and are greeted by a beach? Nanami's alone and at peace. I won't bore you too much with a play-by-play for this portion of the episode, because it's too good and probably my favorite part of the episode. Juxtaposing the tranquil seaside view and Nanami's peace of mind to his current predicament was genius and largely absent in the manga. Calmly walking with a smile on his face, this esteemed and accomplished sorcerer is finally getting a moment of rest. Nanami had faced trials and tribulations in the past as a sorcerer. With Haibara's death, he'd become a salaryman and lived a life devoid of meaning. And now, finally back to the world he left behind, he goes past a wooden shed, like many you'd find at a beach, and we're quickly thrust back into reality. The sandy beach, now a dirty and abandoned subway, the trees swapped with shuttered stores, closed to celebrate Halloween, and this empty shed, a photo booth in the real world, with Mahito hiding inside. Nanami had walked past him without even noticing. Back in Season 1, Mahito received the biggest jumping in Jujutsu Kaisen at the hands of Nanami and Yuji. So, this time around he came back with his tail between his legs and brought his big brothers alongside him. Nanami versus the transfigured humans is a tough watch. While a touching piano medley plays in the back, we alternate between a fictitious Malaysia and dreadful reality. He gets beaten and bruised, pushed and shoved. All the while we keep jumping to and from. Reality to imagination and back. And when Nanami finally kills all the transfigured humans and gets the briefest moment of reprieve, Mahito's right there behind him. Checkmate. In my opinion, Nanami is one of the most important characters in Jujutsu Kaisen. For viewers, he serves as a great example of what it means to be a grade 1. He's the opposite of Gojo, serious and unwavering. He does his work and he does it well. And in the world of Jujutsu itself, he's reliable, strong, and to a character like Yuji, a mentor. He fills a void that even Gojo can't, being competent. Gojo slander aside, Nanami is important, and his death scene hits even harder because of that. We met him early in Season 1, saw bits of his past in hidden inventory, and now we see his end in Shibuya. I love the way Haibara was drawn here with these pencil markings to shade him in. He points at Yuji, but Nanami refuses to become a curse for him. Instead of uttering words like avenge me or kill Mahito, he simply chooses to say, you've got it from here. His body is transfigured and destroyed right in front of Yuji, a ruthless send-off to one of the most beloved characters in Jujutsu Kaisen. As a quick intermission, here's my anime-only friend's reaction to the death.
Dude.
Bastards, all of them.
It's fine, Yuji is gonna come and save him. He cannot die. Josh the dog. Yo,
Junya Inoki, Kenjiro Tsuda, and Nobunaga Shimazaki must have had Red Dew this week, because their performances here are amazing. For Tsuda, his delivery of Nanami's "I've done enough" line was chef's kiss. Yuji's pained expression was elevated by Inoki's desperate performance, as Yuji realizes what comes next. And with what comes next, you can feel the rage in Yuji's scream. Mahito's scream is different. It's full of life and playfulness as he yells back at Yuji that he can hear him quite clearly. I love Mahito as a villain, and what he does later, creating that little mini Junpei only to kill it off, is ruthless. Mahito is Yuji, and Yuji is Mahito. Not only is the rage clear in Yuji's voice, but in the demeanor and actions as well. He runs towards Mahito, but he's so tunneled on him, he ends up tripping over twice on the way there. This fight is the one I've been looking the most forward to ever since Season 2 got announced. And while it's not been on the same level as the previous two so far, there are still things I like. With Yuji's soul shattered, he can't even bring himself to punch the transfigured wall Mahito had planted in front of him. He focuses on defense, but Mahito sneaks him and lands a punch that sends him flying, leaving a deep gash on his forehead. The standoff here is really cool in concept. The walls literally closing in as Mahito's transfigured monstrosity pushes itself into them. The space gets narrower and narrower, and when Mahito goes for a strike, Yuji releases his knees and uses the momentum to hit Mahito with a manji kick. The two go back and forth, and it ends with them doing the anime thing of walking parallel to each other, and round 1 ends. Seriously, how does this work? They're like walking normally, but everything else is like in slow motion. Anyway, I've seen people in my comments complaining about not being able to make out what was happening last week or the week before that during the fights, but this portion for me personally was a lot more difficult. The dark lighting and, I don't know, snappy animation looked a little jank to me. Like this shot of Yuji kicking Mahito down had some cool keyframes, but the follow through, the actual motion and line of action is kinda hard to follow or just non-existent. The compositing for this wall also was a little jank, but I've said this before, when you give animators and artists no time to do their best work, this is what you're gonna end up with. This episode has issues, and as always I'll never blame the animators themselves, but I can't sit back and pretend like there are not glaring flaws looking directly at me. Broken animation that is hard to follow because something feels like it's missing. Bleeding because not enough time was given to make sure the drawings were consistent. Long shots with weak drawings that dragged on for way too long just to pad airtime. Bad compositing that I thought we'd left behind in Season 1. And this nauseating slow motion just to further pad that airtime. Alright, that's all the hating I'll do. Again, I don't want to dog on people least deserving of it. Round 2 is a little better. Anime only scenes continue to be a treat, like when he turns his lips into a sword after trying to kiss Yuji. I love the way that they've been expanding on Mahito's arsenal because of all the characters in the show, he is one of the most versatile fighters. The entire elevator scene was good, and I'll always fuck with the Jajangten references. One thing I don't like is that Yuji kinda teleports. How did he get out of the elevator? And here, why does he just show up mid-vault over the signs? I know in a technical sense we don't need to see it, but to me this screams that we don't have enough time to do everything. Regardless, Mahito is plotting something, and we swap scenes one last time. Okay, I lied. We get a quick intermission showing us how Mahito got ahead of Jogo by splitting himself in two and planting a wall there. Cute scene, doesn't fit the mood, Mahito's still a bastard. And now for the actual final scene. Best girl Nobara is back, and even she realizes that she's been on fraud watch ever since her fight with Haruta. I like this redraw from her fight in Season 1, and the actual action animation that follows is good enough. And as always, drop kicks will never not be my favorite thing. It's only a short scuffle, but with my 530,000 IQ CPU brain, and my precognition abilities, I know that we're going to be seeing more from her in this fight next week. And that about wraps up the episode. It's okay, but again, given the time constraints, the fact that we even get okay is quite crazy. Anyway, will Nobara do something next week? Will Yuji finally kick Mahito's shit in? Find out next time on Dragon Ball.